I just have a question for you. Have you ever wondered if Jesus was married? That question I asked myself years ago. I'm talking about maybe in the year 2004 when that movie, The Da Vinci Code, was around, was a hit. So I decided to investigate a little bit, and I found out that Jesus might be married. At the time, I was like, okay, I knew that nobody else I asked would tell me, would know if Jesus was married or not. But throughout the years, now in 2021, and thanks to years and years of reflection and reading the passage, I came to a conclusion. But what I want is to teach others, about this passage, and so people can, come up with their own conclusion. It's not hard at all. If you're not like religious, like if you're not like hardcore religious, and you have like a critical mindset, yeah, you can uh, come up to your own conclusions. So what I'm gonna do is just read from the Bible. I have this Bible right here. It's the Orthodox Study Bible. This one right here. Uh, the Orthodox Bible Edition. Okay. Uh, and the Old Testament is kind of different from the King James version, but the New Testament is very similar. Very similar. So where do you find, if you really want to find out if Jesus was married, where would you go? That's the first thing. Where would you go? You will go to you would try to find something related to marriage, pretty much. And let me just use my reading glasses. I'm going to switch my glasses. And what I found is this. I went to John chapter 7, 53, and all the way to John chapter 8, 11. Okay, so in John 7:53, it says, and everyone went to his own house. And on chapter 8, number 1, but Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. Chapter versicle number 2, now early in the morning he came again into the temple, and all the people came to him, and he sat down and taught him. He was teaching them. Then it goes on. Then the scribes and Pharisees brought him a woman caught in adultery. And when they had set her in the midst, they say to him, Teacher, this woman was caught in adultery in the very act. So I'm going to stop there. That's all the way from 7:53 to 8:4. So when I read that, since I'm originally from a Catholic country, from Mexico, I know by tradition people, call her, this woman, which we don't have a name, right? They call this woman prostitute, but it is not true. This part of the Bible tells us that this woman was not a prostitute. She was an adulterous woman, and in order for her to be adulterous, by force she had to be married. To whom, it doesn't say. And the reason I know she had to be married is because she was caught in adultery. and the sin of adultery can only be committed from the wife to the husband or from a husband to a wife. That's pretty much how adultery happens up to this day, according to religious tradition and also the law, right? So from there, you go to chapter 8, versicle number 5, and okay, number 4. And then here's where the most important part of the story, in my view, happens, because it says they said to him. Him is Jesus or Jeshua, teacher, which this is like a close translation to the original. I'm pretty sure what they meant is rabbi, which is a Jewish rabbi, and it says, Rabbi, this woman was caught in adultery in the very act. Number 5. Now Moses in the law commanded us that such should be stoned. But what do you say? And this part is very important, because what they're trying to do with Jesus is, in the way I see it, as they did before. If you're familiar with the New Testament, they're trying to set him up. This is pretty much a setup, and they're putting this trap on Jesus, right, or Joshua. How do I know? Because later it says on number 6, it says, "This they said testing him." So they were testing him. They were trying to set him up. Why? So they might have something of which to accuse him. But Jesus stooped down and wrote on the ground with his finger, as though he did not hear. So he started ignoring them. Okay, so just picture this. You are in the temple. Let's say you're Jesus' student. He's teaching you inside of the temple court. And he's explaining you, I don't know, something about the law, I don't know, something about offerings, or something about justice, or something, right? And suddenly you see this mob coming up to him, and they have these women that they just caught in on the very act of adultery, and they bring it in to the temple. So to me, this is very weird, because if you have an adulterous woman, the law said, like they just said, we need to stone her, need to kill her. So why is this woman so important that you bring her into the temple? And why do you, if you don't consider Jesus to be who he is, why would you bring an adulterous woman to him if you believe that he has no authority at all, right? So this is highly suspicious. Why? Just the fact that they bring her to the temple is very highly suspicious. It's not normal. And then Jesus ignored them. So when he didn't answer, in versicle number 7 says, so when they continued asking him, he raised himself up and said to them, he who is without sin among you, let him throw a stone at her first. So Jesus does not condemn the woman. He's not like, okay, he doesn't say like kill her or let her live. None of that. He just like, he puts the burden of the law back on them. So, and again, he stooped down and wrote on the ground. So, why would he um, skip this opportunity to teach them something about the law? He just tell them, okay, if you want to kill her, kill her. If you want to let her go, let her go. But he doesn't take any responsibility about that up to this point. And then it says, then those who heard it, being convicted by their conscience, went out one by one, beginning with the oldest, even to the last. So there, it's very puzzling. Why would they, when they heard that, who is without sin among you, let him throw a stone at her first. When they hear those words, then when they heard it, being convicted by their conscience, went out one by one, beginning with the oldest even to the last. And this is puzzling if you don't know the law. This is puzzling if you don't know who a rabbi who was appointed by a court uh, how would that fact that a rabbi accounted by a court to give out sentences of life and death, which is what Jesus was. He was a rabbi appointed by a high court as a rabbi, and rabbis appointed by a high court had the power of determining if an adulterous woman would live or die. But since this was a setup, Jesus was like, okay, now I'm gonna put the burden on you. So and how he does it, he tells them clearly, he who is without sin among you, let him throw a stone at her first. Why? This is very smart on Jesus' part. He's like, okay, in his mind, this is what happened. Jesus was like, if these guys throw a stone at her and kill her, they're implying that they have no sin. And they understood this. They were like, okay, they put those two options. They were like, okay, let's analyze these two options. If we kill her, according to this rabbi words, we are saying that we have no sin. Okay, and that's the reason it says here, being convicted by their conscience. It is not that they were there. When I read this with an Occidental, right, mindset, I'm like, way of thinking, I'm like, okay, oh, maybe they felt guilty, oh, we're sinners too. But this is not what's happening here. This is not what is going on. What is going on here is that they were thinking, okay, if as Jews, right? Because they were Jews. So they were like, okay, if we throw a stone at her, that means that if I'm throwing the stone, that means that I'm implying, and all the people is listening to this, there's a mob, and they know Old Testament, they know the law, they know Moses. So I'm implying that I have no sin. So if I throw a stone, I'm saying that I have no sin. I'm sinning. And I might be guilty. And people will stone me instead of her. That's what is going on right here. And how do I know that? Because there's an article about a rabbi who explains that very clearly. Very clearly. I'm looking for the site, okay? Because I've been commenting this on some videos, and telling people that this woman was related to Jesus in a way, and I apologize for not having this ready because I'm like um, I printed out those comments, but I don't see no find them. But okay, I'll just put it on the description. I'm gonna leave the link down there. The name of the rabbi thing is Yehuda Sharpen, and the name of the article I think is okay. Let me just find it out real quick. Let me just real quick so you can look it up. Mhm. Okay, it's in Shabbat.org, and the name of the article is "Do Rabbis Need to Be Married?" Where Yehuda Sharping explained that in times of the High Court in Jerusalem, the Sanhedrin, something like that, when a rabbi was ordained, he was required to be married, and that he had a family, kids, because someone with the power of giving out um, death sentences, like in this case, should someone like that should have the compassion that taking care of a family will give you, right? Being having compassion because you have kids and you have a wife. So if you're gonna be able to give death or life sentences, as in this case, you would need to be married. So that's another thing. Since Jesus was a rabbi and was ordained by the Sanhedrin, and it is clear because in the New Testament we know that that Jesus was friend with Nicodemus and with Joseph of Arimathea, and or Arimathea. I don't know how to say it in English. It's not my native language. So the Jesus, if Jesus was ordained by the Sanhedrin, of course, he had the power to give out life and death sentences. So that pretty much, just knowing these facts, changed the whole perspective of the story, right? And I'm gonna keep on reading. It's John chapter 7:53 and John chapter 8, from 8:1 to 8:11. So on John 8:9, it says, "Then those who heard it began being convicted by their conscience," which I just explained. It was not that they were aware of like their sin. They didn't care about that. They just wanted to kill her to because this was a setup. So they wanted to kill her because they knew that if this woman died after being condemned by her own husband, Jesus' ministry or Yeshua's ministry will be pretty much invalidated. Wouldn't be at the eyes of the people in Jerusalem. He would be like his teachings would be all um, scraped off. Maybe that's a word. They would be had no value at all. But here, Jesus was very smart, and he used his own power as a rabbi ordained by a high court, and he had the power of giving this kind of sentences, and uh, and this changed the whole perspective of the New Testament, because if Jesus was a rabbi with this kind of power, we can, if we read the whole New Testament like Matthew, Mark, John, and Luke, we see why these people, the Pharisees and other religious people, why they had a hard time really trying to take down Jesus' ministry. Why? Because he had legal power. So in order for you to destroy him, you need to first destroy his ministry, but not only that, you need to take away the power that the court gave him. And Jesus was more than that. Jesus was a son of David. He was also royalty. And his dad, Joseph, was also a son of David. And the fact that Joseph later called Joseph of Arimathea, the city of the Jews, was also in that Sanhedrin, was a member alongside with Nicodemus. And Jesus was very familiar to the court. He was ordained by them. So we can cover that about Joseph being the same Joseph, then later Joseph of Arimathea, city of the Jews. We can cover that later. It's important because that's why Joseph later in the New Testament story is able to recover Jesus's body, right, from a Roman politician, people in power, person in power, and he got it, and he put it in his own tomb. Of course, was his kid. What do you expect? But they don't teach us that. But we can learn that later. So here, remember before on John 7 on 7:47 we have Nicodemus, right? The story of Nicodemus and Jesus. Right before this, it says on 47. Then the Pharisees answered them, "Are you also deceived? Have any of the rulers of the Pharisees believed in him?" That means Nicodemus is one of those rulers of the Pharisees. But this crowd that does not know the law is accursed. Then says Nicodemus, he who came to Jesus by night, being one of them, say to them, "Does our law judge a man before it hears him and knows what he's doing?" They answered and said to him, "Are you also from Galilee? Search and look, for no prophet has arisen out of Galilee." And then it says, and then it's 7:53, and everyone went to his own house. Okay, so you can see here that Nicodemus, who was one of the rulers of the Pharisees, he was in the Sanhedrin, knew Jesus. So how Jesus knew him? Of course, he knew him through Joseph. But we can go, in more depth later. Okay, now let's go to the woman. Let's analyze what the woman did. And then it says, and Jesus was left alone, and the woman is standing in the midst. When Jesus had raised himself up and saw no one but the woman, listen to this, he saw no one but the woman. He said to her, "Woman, where are those accusers of yours? Has no one condemned you?" And she said, "No one, Lord." And Jesus said to her, "Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more." Okay, this is a lot, man. This is a lot to digest. Because the woman, when the mob left, the woman was still there. So here, there are a few questions that I asked myself, throughout the years. For example, why prevented her from leaving? Why she stayed? That's like highly suspicious. Why would she stay? But and why would she had to, in some sort, justify herself to Jesus? If this woman had a husband, I'm pretty sure the husband would, when Jesus said that, he would be saying, "You know something? Why do you save her life? Right? You're not condemning her because you preach love, but I'm the offended. I'm the husband. So I say kill her." And nobody in this story, no man raises up and condemns her as the husband. So where's the husband? That's one thing. And then she even stay with the Lord, and she says, "Okay, who condemned you? No one, Lord." And why would Jesus say, "Neither do I condemn you"? Because I think if this woman was married to another man, he has the right, according to the law, to condemn her. Why would Jesus say, "Neither do I condemn you"? This makes no sense unless it was Jesus's woman, wife. If it was her wife, makes total sense because he would say, "Okay, they didn't condemn you. They were using the law to condemn you and kill you, but I do not condemn you. I forgive you." And this would be something that Jesus would do if he was married, because Jesus said forgive, right? And then even call her woman, woman. When when he said woman, where are those accusers of yours? He calls her woman. He goes back to Genesis, where it says that the man will leave her father and mother, and he will unite, or he would take a woman, and they will be one flesh. You remember that in Genesis. I mean, any person who's read the Bible knows that. He calls a woman, so he makes a connection to Adam and Eve. And he also said at some point in the New Testament, Jesus said, "I'm the new Adam, the second Adam." So this connection right here goes all the way to Genesis. There's an ethical, a highly ethical teaching in this part of the New Testament, John 8. If I think is I read that this passage starts on John 7:53 all the way to 8:11. So that because they have found scrolls, and in some parts of the of the of the rolls that they have found, they say that this part sometimes appears in Mark, sometimes appears in John, sometimes appears in Luke or Matthew. But here they decided to, whoever put together this John book, they decided to include that in John. I don't know why, but there's also a video who about a scholar, a Jewish scholar who explains this. And let me see if I can find it. Where is it? Okay, her name is Amy Jill Levine. She's a professor of studies of New Testament at the School of Divinity of the University of Vanderbilt. She's from the Department of Religious Studies and the Department of Religions graduates. Yeah, I will try to put the link on the video too. It's a YouTube video, and she explains that, like, how highly suspicious is this part of the New Testament. Highly suspicious because nobody in the West, like especially the Catholic view is, and a lot of Protestants are like, okay, no, Jesus was single. Tradition tells no, Jesus is single. But no, if you really analyze this part, you can tell that, and with the information that we have now from rabbis who say that that only rabbis ordained by the Sanhedrin had the power to give out sentences of life of death and death. I apologize for the noise because they're yelling out there. Knowing this piece of information about Rabbi Shorpen makes us understand a lot of the New Testament from a different point of view. If Jesus was a rabbi ordained by the Sanhedrin in Jerusalem in the first century, changes everything. Everything we know about the New Testament has to be seen through this lens in order for us to really understand who Jesus was. And I have a lot of new information to give you this revelation, but I'm gonna stop it just here. So hopefully you can learn something about new learn something new about Jesus. Have questions, just um, put it in the comment section. And thanks for listening.